Dragon and I have a love-hate relationship, and him in this God Valley flashback, it's the same thing. There are certain aspects that I love, and there are also certain aspects where I'm like, what the fluff? If you guys haven't noticed, this video is going to be very Dragon Center. I want to specifically talk about what he's done in God Valley and kind of compare it to the version of him that we see now. I originally wanted to just do a God Valley related video because Sengoku definitely left out some information when he revealed God Valley back in chapter 957. Obviously, Sengoku didn't want to go into full detail because the world government has been trying to cover up rocks, what all they did, the Davy clan, etc. So I understand, but dang, Sengoku, you left out quite a bit. We've gotten a lot that's been revealed, but I assume that we're gonna get even more. Probably the next few chapters that are gonna drop is just gonna build upon it. And so I didn't want to necessarily make a video about God Valley and then we're 3-4 chapters later and then a lot of the stuff that I talked about isn't even relevant anymore. So I just decided I wasn't even gonna make a video about that until, well, everything's revealed. So why Dragon? There are 50 million characters that are at God Valley. Why did I choose Dragon? Well, out of all of the top tiers, or at least the people who haven't really shown much in the story, who within the community, we believe they are some of the strongest characters in the series, that they're at the top. Dragon, he gets a lot of slander. I'd say it's probably him, Akainu, Mihawk, and well, I was gonna say Shanks, but it's been a little bit less now since Shanks has been revealing more. But let's be honest, everyone has slowly but surely, and just overall in general, all right, they've shown more than what Dragon has. Akainu, boy, does that man sit at that desk. He sits at that desk and he just has that vein popping on his head. But guess what? He has some feats against Whitebeard. Mihawk, he gets slandered pretty bad. I ain't gonna lie. It's probably the second worst in the series. Because them allegations with Mihawk, them memes, they're devious. But we've seen him at least do some stuff, whether it's in the manga or some non-canon movies. At least Mihawk, he stepped out from the office. He's done something. And then there's Shanks most recently with the Divine Departure. We saw that. We saw the hockey Wi-Fi on Green Bullet Wano. So he's done some stuff as well. So I would say these are probably the characters that at least at some point in the community that they say had been on Fraud Watch. And honestly, if you guys know the meme of the doodle, the guy sitting here with the stick poking, like, come on, do something. He's begging. He is begging for something to be done. That is exactly how the One Piece community feels about Dragon. Because guess what? The series has been out for over 25 years and Dragon has done nothing. Absolutely nothing. Fans are valid for feeling this way. And I mean, shoot, I feel this way. I can't even defend this man anymore. Every year, we have the One Piece top 30 strongest characters. A lot of people in the community, they make their own list. Now, I do want to put this caveat out there. Nobody is going to have a 100% quote accurate list, or not every list is going to be the same. I can promise you, you put 100 people in a room, I promise you there's not going to be a single individual that has the same exact list. But a lot of the times the list, they're going to be similar. Like, let's say you have the top 5 that people consider them the top 5 strongest. You'll probably shuffle them around who's 1 through 5, but for the most part the top 5 is probably going to be the same. A lot of people a few years ago, they probably had Dragon either at number 1 or at the bare minimum in the top 3 because of the epithet being the world's most dangerous criminal, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. So it's only expected for people to rank him this high. Well, that ain't the case no more because he does nothing. He literally does nothing. Like, sure, you could talk about portrayal, you could talk about titles, you could talk about expectations, but there's so many other characters that are showing more and just leaving Dragon in the dust. So yeah, being the leader of the Revolutionary Army with strong individuals like Kuma, Sabo, Ivankov, that should give some credibility, but Mother Fluffin' Buggy, he's an emperor. We've seen how many times in this series that Buggy has finagled and finessed his way up the top. Aside from Dragon saving Sabo and Luffy, please, I am begging you, please tell me what this man has done. Dragon is sweat man, stuck at his desk, and when he finally gets up, tries to stretch around, you know what he's doing? He's looking east. That's all he's doing. He does nothing. What frustrates me is, now part of this is a little bit of a joke, but also everything's gonna be revealed in all due time. We just gotta be patient. But you mean to tell me that we ain't gonna see nothing? The last thing we saw was like in the first 100 chapters. We can't get a nibble, a bite, a little drop of water, nothing, when the Holy Knights mobilize. That's where the Revolutionary Army is supposed to make their move, because well, the Holy Knights, they've mobilized their Elbaf, ring dragon, answer the freaking phone, because where you at, brother? I promise you, you weren't the one that set fire at Mary Jawad. That was definitely the Blackbeard pirates. I know your lineage. I know that you're the son of Garp, that you're the father of Luffy. So eventually you're gonna do something, right? Like I can hold out on that, right? But if you guys enjoy regular One Piece content, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video up about different One Piece content almost each and every day. Looking back at the God Valley, I was happy that Dragon was there. Was I expecting it? Absolutely not. Does it make sense why he's here? Yes, because we know that Dragon was once originally a part of the Marines, that he left because he wanted to follow his sense of justice. And the Marines at the time, they didn't have the same ideals. They didn't necessarily see eye to eye. Their sense of justice was completely different. This isn't uncommon, and maybe they should get this checked out, but Garp, Aokiji, Smoker, Kobe, I could list others, they feel the exact same way. We wondered what scene or what was so drastic that caused Dragon to think this way. Obviously, we knew it had something to do with corruption. I mean, well, that's been a thing forever. You see Spandam, Spandine, you got freaking, I don't know his name, but the people at Arlong Park. Corruption within the Marines, they gotta get that checked out. But while Dragon was at God Valley, he was partly responsible for the hunting competition. Y'all already know every 3 years, the world government, and more specifically, I should say the Celestial Dragons, they choose an island to have that competition with slaves that they brought from other countries, as well as civilians from the islands. They're turned into rabbits for the Celestial Dragons to hunt. Those civilians, they are captured, whether it's through tranquilizer guns, sleeping gas, whatever, right? They find a way to capture them. And while this was happening, there is different Marines that were partaking in this, and Dragon was looking around. He was like, hold up, this isn't necessarily right, but it was marked off as a training exercise. And you know, I respect Dragon because this man's like, yo, this is wrong. Ain't no fluffing way that this is a training exercise. But it's not really much that he can do, because if he goes against his superiors, well, that would mean that he's going against the Celestial Dragons, and then boom, right? His entire platoon, as well as himself, well, they're dead. So at this point, we see Dragon just popping and taking out different civilians, not necessarily because he agrees with this sense of justice, but because, well, at this point, that's all he could do. As the story goes on, Dragon, he's like, oh, okay, I'm sick to my stomach. I know this isn't right. And this is when he runs into Shanks and Shamrock's mother, who asks Dragon to save her kids from this hell. She doesn't want them to be raised in this type of environment, to be someone cruel like Garland. If that happens, well, they're gonna grow up into, you could say, either just as bad or even worse than what Garland was. Which obviously you can't blame the kids on that. That's not their fault, because that would have been the only environment that they would have known. And so they're gonna think what they're doing is right. Hence why Dragon, he tried to save these two, because he's like, okay, I can atone for this. And then bam, right? Dragon can't catch a break. My boy was shot. Mafia out here sniped him about the paint. Which also explains why Shanks and Shamrock were separated, and why the two, they think a little bit differently, because Shamrock was exposed to the Celestial Dragons and their whole entire lifestyle, so he thinks that way, compared to Shanks, who was a little bit more free, was with Roger and everything like that, understands how different people feel, wants to respect them, gain respect not by force, but by people generally appreciating it. Now we got to give Dragon a lot of praise, because if he was not here, if he did not save Shanks and a lot of other characters, One Piece would not happen. Shanks wouldn't have met Luffy, Ivankov and Kuma, they don't join the Revolutionary Army, which Ivankov is responsible for Sanji's training, as well as saving Luffy. Kuma separates the Straw Hats. Jenny, she doesn't have Bonnie, which connects Kuma to Vegapunk, which is the entire thing that happened with Egghead. I'm not going to dive into everything, because, you know, pulling out those strings, it just would take forever. But think of it this way. majority of the story, if not all of the story, would not have happened if Dragon never interfered. So we got to give him credit because, well, One Piece all happened because of Dragon. So there you go. I mentioned earlier about Dragon's lineage. He is the father of Luffy, the son of Garp. And so some people, they feel like Dragon should have been a lot stronger than what he's displayed so far. And I'm kind of in between. I'm a little bit torn because I agree, but then I also disagree because, as I mentioned, this is supposed to be Dragon's why, his true motivations as to why he started the Revolutionary Army. Seeing this firsthand, this was the catalyst. So I understand why Oda went this path and why he decided to make Dragon weak. Plus, he also didn't have a devil fruit, and we kind of speculate that he eats devil fruit, uses that chest to put Shanks in it, and then puts them on Roger's ship. But then you can also make the argument at this time, Luffy, same age, was fighting warlords. He was holding his own at Marine Fort. But at the same time, Luffy, he also had a devil fruit. He had a devil fruit compared to Dragon. Now, strength is not necessarily linear. Progress is always different. I mean, shoot, you can look at Kobe. Kobe was originally, he was a coward. He was terrible. He was weak, and he was only 16 at the time. And then you flash forward with the 2-year time skip, and Kobe, my boy, with his honesty impact, he's destroying mountains in like one blow. So I get why people are upset. I truly do. But personally, I like Dragon this way. But the only thing is, I need him to do something in the current story. If he could do something in the current story, that would be great. That would be great. But overall, I think it was dope to see Dragon's origin story and his why behind starting the Revolutionary Army. What better incident than the God Valley incident? And so obviously the flashback, it's not done. I think for the most part, Dragon's part is done. As I mentioned, the only stuff we really got to figure out is how he was able to get Shanks into that chest and how he ended up getting his devil fruit. More like not those two along. Let me know how you guys feel about Dragon just as a character, and did you guys like him in the God Valley flashback? Let me know in the comments. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is on the screen and the description below. And don't forget to unleash your potential.